Tahir Qadiry, Afghanistan's Chargé D'Affaires in India. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm glad this chat we are having, we have the cameras rolling as well.
Thank you so much, Amitabh-ji. I think it finally happened. We wanted to do it for a long time now, and welcome to the Afghan Embassy.
Qadri Saab, just to look at the developments, and I know it's a cliche to say that Afghanistan's on the crossroads, because the crossroads for over 4 decades. But the Biden administration and the close contact that has already been initiated between the two NSAs, with Mohib Saab as well, and then with Secretary of State and President Ghani, clearly looking at reviewing the Taliban-US deal. Also reports suggesting that NATO is looking at not withdrawing international troops by the deadline that was set in the deal, which is May 1st. Give us, in a nutshell, where you think the position stands currently.
Well, Amitabh-ji, Afghanistan is at a very important juncture. We have initiated a lot of, good approaches actually to work towards achieving an endurable peace in Afghanistan. So as a result, the Afghan government took a lot of, good initiatives, starting from the convention of the Loy Jirga, where more than 3,000 people came from across Afghanistan to actually express, their commitments to bringing peace in the country. As a result, you saw that in a generous, approach, so many thousand Taliban prisoners were released by the Afghan government. So the second thing that we did in Afghanistan was actually forging a national, regional, and international consensus. So we have always been saying that there has to be a responsible, withdrawal from Afghanistan, because the conditions have not been met. And luckily, when all the eyes were actually on the new U.S. administration, quite a few days after the new administration, there was a call between the two NSAs. And in fact, there was, a very firm and solid commitment there for foundational kind of partnership between India and the United States. So the commitment is there. There was regional engagement also reaffirmed, and engagements on the security sector. And counterterrorism, and also the review of, the agreement between the United States and the Taliban. And later on, of course, there was this phone call between His Excellency the President and the U.S. Foreign Minister. Again, that commitment was reaffirmed, and which is a good news for the people of Afghanistan, because after all, we have come a very long way, and we have gained so much that we don't want to lose it.
Don't want to lose it. And this review, what is expected by the government in Afghanistan? Because we know at least the people in the Biden administration, including Biden himself when he was vice president, his views. But the stress seems to be on conditionalities that the Taliban have not met, which everyone knew and saw on the ground wasn't being met, right?
As I'm speaking, there was an attack in Kabul, and this is not actually the first or the last attack. We experience and witness such attacks on a daily basis. Just to give you a little bit of statistics, only over the last 10 months of 2020, there had been more than 18,000 attacks. It means 50 attacks every single day in Afghanistan. So that is a lot. And we are not only speaking about some statistical numbers of human beings. We are talking about a mother, a father, a son, a daughter being killed. And they are not being actually targeted on the road, on the roads or roadside bombs, but in hospitals, in maternity wards, in schools, in universities, and the heinous attack which happened in the university, which killed so many bright faces in Afghanistan. And the recent targeted killings of journalists and civil activists in Afghanistan is quite alarming. So that's why the people in Afghanistan, they expect that the Taliban do ceasefire, they reduce the violence, which they are not. Actually, they are like they are indiscriminately killing people, and especially the recent targeted attacks. So these conditions have to be met, because that was in return for what we did in Afghanistan, the generous release of their prisoners from the prisons in Kabul. So as a result, the basic demand of our people is that no one should get killed. If you really have good determination and commitment for peace, then you have to stop violence, you have to stop killing people, and let's speak and negotiate a deal.
Exactly. What do you expect the government expect from the Biden administration? Now, when they're saying conditionalities, there were those three pillars that you're talking about,
Yeah.
Which is, of course, to reduce violence leading up to a ceasefire.
Sure.
Political talks, and interesting that Jake Sullivan in talk to a think tank said not fake talks. I mean, there should be genuine talks. And of course, the political process that you move towards, and not the terrorism angle.
Yep.
Al-Qaeda, links with Al-Qaeda, which again we've seen none of those have been met. Do you see the Biden administration putting more pressure on the Taliban, and how do you see the Taliban reacting?
Well, we very much hope, like, as we are speaking, our 21-member negotiating team are in Doha, but the Taliban, they are dodging themselves and they are not negotiating. So the second round, didn't start actually. So we were very much hopeful because all the commitments were met from the Afghan side, from the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. So people with a lot of determination were there just to speak and to negotiate, a settlement where no Afghan is killed for nothing, for no reason. So the hopes are quite high back in the country as well, that the new U.S. administration will take everything into consideration. Because as I said, Amitabhji, you have been following Afghanistan for so many years, and you have seen, now you see a totally different Afghanistan. So the Afghanistan the Taliban left, it is not that country. So the Taliban need to endorse and acknowledge that there is a new country, there is a new generation in Afghanistan. We have had a lot of developments. Now we have a lot of institutions, so many young people, working and representing Afghanistan in different capacities. So the $1 million question is that do the Taliban accept and endorse and acknowledge this Afghanistan? Because, they have to do that if they want to integrate into, a stable, peaceful and democratic Afghanistan where everyone have equal rights. So the hopes are quite high that, the new U.S. administration will take all these into consideration, which they are. And I'm sure you have seen a new statement by the EU countries and NATO, and that's very strong for people. And it has been warmly received in Afghanistan because it reaffirms that commitment that we have to stand by the strides that we have made and by the gains that Afghanistan has achieved over the last 20 years.
So do you see the Biden administration changing anything, say, from the Trump administration in pressurizing the Taliban? Because the view was that the Taliban were getting everything that they wanted in those talks, which were initially between the U.S. and the Taliban, with the Afghan government only later involved in that. Do you see any change in that, and how do you visualize the Taliban reacting? Because then the Biden administration will also keep in mind that they don't want U.S. troops to get targeted.
Well, we are yet to see, what kind of changes Afghanistan, they will have the policies on South Asian countries and especially Afghanistan. I think it's too early actually to have any kind of preconceived judgments, but the hopes are, as I said, very high. And people back in Afghanistan are very much hopeful that the international community, that they invested in blood and treasure in Afghanistan. So many of their brave soldiers were killed, including our brave Afghan soldiers and the regional countries as well, who contributed to peace and security in Afghanistan. So as a result, all of this has to be protected and preserved. And we are very much hopeful that, that any decision will be a solid decision on Afghanistan, with the condition that the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan will remain there. The democratic values that we have, they have to be protected and preserved. And if it includes, pressuring any group, of course, why not? Of course, that is what the people want. Because, the number one, the basic, as I said, demand of our people is that the killings must stop and violence must stop.
When you look at the Taliban now, there have already been interviews that they have given in various countries, calling for an interim government, saying that they do not recognize, especially the President Ghani-led government. Now, that's a red line that is, President Ghani has made it clear he will not cross, right?
Well, Amitabhji, President Ghani was elected by people in a democratic, election. So what the Taliban are expecting is, something which is not there. So we have got a constitution which actually everything is stipulated there. So we believe in people's voices, that they go to the ballots and vote, and that's what they did. So that's why that is not rational at all. Their demand. So we have got the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. We have got our elections where one person, one vote, and they decide like who should be the leader of Afghanistan, which we have the current government. So as a result, we are trying to tell the Taliban that, you know, there is the democratic values that you can also come and be part of it. Like, you know, in the past as well, we have accommodated so many other groups as well that now they are doing political, you know, they have political ambitions and they are running, you know, their political ambitions. So why not them? I think there is platform for the Taliban to come and work under the umbrella of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan.
The Taliban is seen as united, at least in its negotiating posture, or the team that is there. There are a lot of questions about the Afghan team because it's so representative that they are appointed by the ARG, by the presidential palace. They have to have other political groupings represented, women, youth. Is the Afghan polity and politicians united because that's the most important thing in negotiating with the Taliban? Or would there be politicians who are willing to cut a deal, stay with the Taliban, and cross that red line of the Republic?
As part of the Afghan government policy, as I said, you know, we worked on three things. So national consensus, regional consensus, and international consensus. For national consensus, what the Afghan government, the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan did was, you know, bringing everyone on the same page. Of course, we may have differences, which is, you know, which shows the diversity of a society. But at the end of the day, our national interests are, you know, beyond any other interest that we may have. So as a result, different political groups came together and they all, you know, collectively and unitedly, the president actually, you know, announced the representation of the 21 member. And as you said rightly, we have brave women representing us. And if you remember, one of the members was shot at and she went with a sling, you know, that day. So that was the Fawzia Kofi, that was the representation of the new Afghanistan, that despite everything, we have the resilience and they are representing us. We have young people representing the young population of Afghanistan, because more than 70% of the population falls under the age of 30. And we have got also representatives from political parties. So at the end of the day, what matters is, you know, that unity that we have had, and we have been able to maintain it despite, you know, our personal differences. And at a regional consensus, at the regional level, both His Excellency the President and His Excellency our Foreign Minister, they have been traveling around, talking to different countries and telling them that security in Afghanistan is security in the region. So it's in the best interest of everyone to work together to convince and persuade the Taliban to accept a political deal. Because if Afghanistan is safe, because we always, as His Excellency the President, you know, he picturizes Afghanistan as the roundabout of the region where, you know, money, goods and ideas will flow if there is security. And we have got a lot of ambitions, economic ambitions that, you know, in the region. And I'm sure that the regional countries are quite looking forward to that as well. And then at an international level, of course, there has been consensus. And as you can see, you know, there are statements by the international community, there are statements and supports and commitments, you know, by all these countries that they have been throwing behind the Afghan government and the Afghan people.
Alisa, when you talked about pressure on the Taliban, everybody knows where they originate from. What about pressure on Pakistan, more importantly, Rawalpindi, ISI, the deep state, however you want to call it? Because that's where we saw Mullah Baradar from Doha. He goes back to Karachi. He's visiting the Taliban, you know, cadres there. So the safe havens, the financial infrastructure, all is in Pakistan. Will the U.S. or does the Afghan government see the U.S. actually going for the root cause?
Well, Amitabhji, I think a very simple answer to that is that we have always said that if Afghanistan is unsafe, the whole region will be unsafe. We are at the forefront of fighting more than 20 terrorist groups in Afghanistan. And, you know, our brave men and women, they are actually using their bodies as shields to protect. So we are the front line of ensuring the security of the world. So as a result, the basic expectation of Afghanistan and the people of Afghanistan is that the region must support the good causes and the good approaches which have been taken. Because any misleading kind of, you know, attitude towards this good and generous and honest approach of Afghanistan will have consequences for the whole region, because if Afghanistan is unsafe, then the whole region is unsafe. We have been raising the issue of counterinsurgency, always, and we have always made it clear that, we need to fight together and collectively. And if you remember, as a result, there were a lot of engagements with the neighboring countries, including Pakistan, to tell them that, please, this is the time for all of us, and for the sake of, both humanity, for the sake of security, for the sake of global and regional security, we need to come together to work together. So that is, from the Afghan government's part, we have been doing everything we can at different levels to show our commitment, to show our honest commitment and determination in that regard. And we are very much hoping that, the regional countries, including Pakistan, they will understand the importance of the current scenario, that we need to seize it. This is a golden opportunity for Afghanistan and for the region, so we have to seize it.
Well, it seems that somebody will have to pressurize Islamabad to seize that. Biden himself has had so much experience. I mean, he was in the Situation Room as vice president when Osama bin Laden was taken out in Abbottabad. He knows the region. He's got the highest civilian honor from Pakistan as well. It seems to be the U.S. needs to clamp down on...
Well, our government, both the our Excellency, the President of Afghanistan, he has been, speaking with the stakeholders and with Pakistan as well regarding this and about the importance of this. As I said, I mean, we really dream of changing to the roundabout of the region. So it is also equally very important for Pakistan as well. So, I mean, from our part, we are trying to, first of all, what is important for us is to forge that regional consensus where you, me, and everyone else is on the same page, because they need to understand that this is a golden opportunity for all of us to seize it. And, if it leads to an enduring peace, then it leads to an enduring peace in the region.
Well, to help Afghanistan reach that enduring peace, India has been a partner with you for, I mean, historically, of course, but of course, in the last decades as well. Military security cooperation, I mean, hardware that we've provided, the attack helicopters in the past, training which continues. We've had high-level meetings as well with our NSA traveling to Kabul this year itself. Mr. Jaishankar has spoken to Mr. Atmar as well. How do you visualize India in this flux situation in Afghanistan?
Well, Amitabhji, I think everyone agrees that India has been standing by Afghanistan through the thick and thin of time. The tested, friendship and relationship we have had, I think it goes back very deep in the history. The people-to-people contact that also speaks for itself. India's position has always been quite clear regarding the peace talks in Afghanistan. For India, India supports a strong Kabul, which is in the best interest of us as well, the best interest of Afghanistan. We share common and shared values with India, the democratic values. And if you could allow me to again remember and recall the House of Parliament that India, constructed in Afghanistan, which is, a sign and a hallmark of this friendship that, this country believes in Afghanistan's democracy. So as a result, the recent engagements, they have been quite important for both countries, but, at different levels, we have always had those engagements. Sure. India supports an Afghan-led, Afghan-owned, and Afghan-controlled peace process. If I'm not wrong, I think these terms also, originated here in India. So the common shared values and the common security threats that both countries face, I think it makes it really a special kind of relationship for both countries to stand by each other at this difficult time. So the recent visit of Excellency Ajit Doval and also Jaishankarji's speech there, and the recent commitments of India again. And let me also tell you that quite soon we will be inaugurating another very big project of Shatut Dam that will give water to at least 2 million people in Kabul, that we really direly need that. So apart from that, the strategic relationship is there. Both countries are standing by each other, and India is, of course, being proactive in the peace talks, but is standing by the Afghan government and by the people of Afghanistan. Because our cause is quite clear. We say that there is this Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, the gains we have made, and I think India has hugely contributed to our gains as well. You know, the Afghan students, the scholarships that they have been giving, starting from there to India being home for so many Afghans, and you know, to the development projects that India has been applying throughout Afghanistan.
Specifically on defense and security, considering the international drawdown is happening, we don't know the exact manner in which. What more can India do to sustain the Afghan national defense security forces?
Well, Amitabhji, the simplest answer to that would be that we have a strategic partnership,
Yes.
and based on that, I think
the first country to sign a strategic
yes, the
partnership.
first country, exactly, we signed with India, and I think everything is stipulated there, and it is going as per the strategic agreement.
How does Kabul or the government of President Ghani look at if, because we don't know what is happening behind the scenes, the India engages separately with the Taliban like all other countries and institutions are?
Well, our expectation from all our great friends have always been that, you know, there is a cause and a platform in Afghanistan. There is a government, a legitimate government, which is, you know, paving the way for negotiating with the Taliban. But nevertheless, we don't doubt any intentions by the Indian government, as I said, because of the shared values and the security issues that we both countries, you know, care about. You know, the intentions of the Indian government are quite clear that, you know, they support the cause and the cause of the Afghan people and the Afghan government. So in that regard, it leaves no doubt for any kind of, you know, being suspicious.
Development, of course, you talked about the aid, over 3 billion that India has. Shatul Dam is the latest manifestation of that. Crucial, what you were talking about, President Ghani's visualization of Afghanistan as the crossroads of ideas, of trade. The air corridor that has been established between India and Afghanistan, how important is that, especially now that saffron has also come into it, right?
True. Well, it's not only about the air corridor. In fact, once Afghanistan was called as a landlocked country, but today we are not. We call ourselves as a land-bridged country. So we are like a bridge, you know, connecting, you know, one part of the world with the other. And air corridor was one of, you know, those.
Well, the reason for the air corridor was because Pakistan would not allow land transit.
Well, that was a big dream for us, and I keep on saying that even with the frequent flights that we have in the past, our biggest dream, our people's biggest dream, was to have breakfast in Kabul and lunch in Delhi over a Bollywood movie, and it's happening today. And the air corridor, in fact, it has been a very efficient, you know, program, and we have so many flights taking place and bringing all those, you know, juicy fruits of Afghanistan, the Kabuliwala one, you know, reminding us of the Kabuliwala, and you can find it all in all, you know, local markets here in India. And you spoke of saffron. Let me also say that recently I had an article about saffron diplomacy. So the reason why I think that is important is that, you know, that's a kind of soft power for us as a red gold of Afghanistan. And we have had more than 20% of increase despite COVID in terms of export last year to India alone. Particularly about trade, Amitabhji, we have a lot with India, especially in terms of export. Last year, despite the coronavirus, you know, that, you know, it halted and it damaged, you know, the whole economy of the world, we in fact had an increase of 5% of, you know, our exports to India. So more than $50 million worth of goods, you know, were exported to India. And we had a lot of other engagements as well. We had a lot of online, you know, exhibitions. Of course, in comparison to 2019, it was nothing, because in 2019, our traders, they signed contracts of worth of $200 million. And the biggest one was the Passage to Prosperity, if you remember. Then IITF, and then, you know, Made in Afghanistan, and, you know, a lot of other things that we did here. Because India is the prime location for Afghan exports. And now we use, of course, 4 routes for that. But air corridor is one of the easiest and good ones.
And India is also the prime destination of a different kind of export. If I go back 10, 12 years, I remember in Kabul, everybody would be watching the IPL. Now, everybody watches the IPL with Afghan exports who are worldwide names, and especially in India, household names.
Yeah,
it's
true.
extremely exciting and changing time.
Yeah, that is also true, and thanks to India, in fact, for supporting our cricket, of course, back here. India, Dehradun, and Greater Noida, they are home to our cricketers in India. And in fact, in my city where I was born, when you fly over it in Mazar-e-Sharif, the first thing actually before landing, you see a very big stadium that India has built there.
In Kandahar as well.
And Kandahar as well. True.
As well.
Kandahar as well.
So a great. In fact, I have predicted this 7-8 years back, possibly, to all my friends who said, don't ever say that Afghanistan will beat India in a T20 cricket match very soon, the way they're going, inshallah.
But that won't matter. Let me tell you, Amitabhji, I had just arrived in India for this position. I was staying somewhere and then watching the match between India and Afghanistan. The only time that nobody cared about who wins was that match. So we would cheer and clap for the Indian athletes, but at the same time, we would do the same thing for the Afghan athletes too. So it was the only time that nobody cared about like who becomes the winners, but it was the winning of the two nations. So everyone was clapping for the nations.
And exemplified, that's not the same case when Afghanistan plays Pakistan.
Of course not, no.
We'll leave that for another time. Qadry Sahab, again, Tashakkur, Manana, thank you so much. I know you'll be flying Afghanistan's flag even higher.
No, thank you so much, Amitabhji. I mean, this relationship, I'm so honored actually to be representing Afghanistan here. I've made so many friends and so many Indian friends. And now, part of my body actually is here and will always remain here. I wrote something a few days ago for an article, and let me just, conclude it with that. There is this very good line from a Zanjeer film, if you remember, where an Afghan is actually one of the characters. And there he says that, if I can pronounce it correctly, he says that Yari hai iman mera, yar mere zindagi. Friend is my faith and friend is my life. I think this epitomizes and the relationship of the two nations, both Indians and Afghans. And I'm very much hoping that to see the relationship further strengthened. And thank you so much.
Qadry Sahab, that feeling is absolutely reciprocated from India to Afghanistan as well. Again,
thank you, brother.
Thank you. And just a reminder for all of you who like our kind of journalism, you can go onto our website to support us. You can also follow us on our social media handles on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. This is Stat News Global. I'm Amitabh Ravi.